I think this will be a fun video to do before this movie actually comes out. So if we look at my screen here, Ant-Man the Wasp: Quantumania is currently sitting at a 53% on Rotten Tomatoes. Obviously no audience yet because the movie has not come out. 39% with the top critics, but a 53% with all the critics, making it Marvel's second rotten movie, and their second lowest rated, Eternals, is just under it. It's just under Love and Thunder. And, you know, a lot of people have been looking at the scores of the Infinity Saga versus what we've gotten in the Multiverse Saga. And I kind of want to look at all this data and whatnot. I'm not going to include the shows here. I'm going to do just the movies because it wouldn't be fair. The Infinity Saga didn't have any main shows. So we're just going to do the movies. We're just going to look at the review scores and see where things started to change and kind of how those numbers have started to look. So scroll. There should be, there it is, the Marvel Cinematic Universe thing. So we can see all of that. So I have the Rotten Tomatoes stuff, and then I have this over here. So basically what we're going to do, movie, critic score, and audience score. And we're just going to look at, the critic score, the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. We're going to accumulate that. We're going to average them out. We're going to put them in graphs, yada, yada. And we're basically going to look at how those numbers have changed over time. I did have the movies in here earlier and then deleted them for some reason. So I have to put them back in. For the sake of making this easier to see, I'm not doing the full titles. If the movie has a subtitle, I'm just using the subtitle. I'll say Guardians, Age of Ultron, Ant-Man. Where did I mess up? Oh no, I didn't mess up. I thought I messed up. It looked off, but it is not. So that's the Infinity Saga. And then we have Black Widow, we have Shang-Chi, Eternals, No Way Home, Multiverse of Madness, Love and Thunder, and Wakanda Forever, and then of course Quantumania, which comes out tomorrow, or I guess today, depending on where you live. So there's all those. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shrink this window, I'm gonna shrink this window. Whoa, why is this still so large? Oh my god. Okay, so now we have all those. And I'm literally just going to go through and I'm just going to write down all the scores for these. So, and I think it is cool to see sort of the correlation, if you look between these, of how similar some of these start out. Like Iron Man 2's and the Avengers are the exact same across the board. Which I'm going to talk a bit more about that as we get deeper into looking at graphs and whatnot. I will say I'm not a math guy. My mom had to teach me how to do all this before I started recording. So shout out, Mom, for being awesome. Guardians 92. My mom would argue that's too low. 65, 92, 92. There's another example of two things being the exact same. It's so funny to see all these good movies and then just in it you have like Marvel's Inhumans. Ant-Man and the Wasp currently has a higher score on Rotten Tomatoes than it's, oh, that's right, they put this in a weird order, has a higher score on Rotten Tomatoes than Quantumania, which I refuse to believe. Like, there's no way Quantumania is worse than Ant-Man and the Wasp, because I don't really like Ant-Man and the Wasp that much. I think it's not a very good movie. I think it's one of the worst MCU movies, actually. I will say, Captain Marvel is kind of going to be a bad sample. That kind of sabotages this experiment a bit because that movie was review bombed. To hell. Okay, so that's Infinity Saga stuff. And then my plan is I want to make two. So I want to make one that kind of encapsulates all of the movies, but then because there's going to be 31 things on that graph, I do also want to make one that's just Infinity Saga and just Multiverse Saga. Just so, you know, we're looking at less stuff. And then that brings us to Quantumania, which we, of course, do not yet have an audience score for. So that's that. Okay, so here's what we got. Here's everything. I'm going to average it out at some point, but not right now. So what I want to do here, I'm going to take the Infinity Saga movies, and we're going to make this into a chart first. So insert chart. Okay, and then we have to change it because I don't want it like that. So we can look at this two ways. So blue is critic score and red is audience score. And then if I can enlarge this so we can just we can look at it here. So what you'll notice about the Infinity Saga is, except for the rare occasion, like, you know, what unfortunately did happen with Captain Marvel, they mostly stay the same. So they're very much on, and we can, if I can move this so we can look at the numbers at the same time here. You know, like 94, 91, 67, 69, nice. Like, some of these are the exact same, like Iron Man 2, the Avengers, and Guardians. Like, those are the exact same scores all the way through the entire Infinity Saga, except for here when it's very much, you know, off. I believe, and by believe I mean I know, the highest audience score is Far From Home, which really bothers me. But that's our highest audience score for the Infinity Saga. And then our highest critic score is Black Panther at 96. Then the next closest one from there is a tie between both Iron Man and Endgame at 94. So that's what the Infinity Saga looks like. Now, things get interesting if we take the Multiverse Saga into account. So I'm going to see if I can shrink this, but like keep it here. So that's our Infinity Saga graph, okay? And then let's go away, Google Calendar. Now let's take our Multiverse Saga movies and make those into a graph. So let me move this. Shift these up here, and then same thing again. Movie, critic score, and audience score. There's kind of a reason I'm separating these, by the way. And then can I do this? There we go. That's because what we're going to do later. So insert chart, new one, awesome. So here's our Multiverse Saga films as it is, and this is basically already made for me. I don't have to mess with it. So there we go, movie, right there. Critic blue, audience red, our number up to 100. Now if that thing goes away, I can just pull this over here real quick, just kind of put it on top. What we'll notice, audience is higher for every single film in the Multiverse Saga thus far. Black Widow's is a considerable amount higher. Shang-Chi's is very close. Eternals is 30. It's a 30 difference. Multiverse of Madness, again, higher. Love and Thunder, a bit higher. Black Panther's 10 higher, and then I'm expecting Quantumania might fall like up here probably. I think Quantumania will actually be a considerable amount higher than the actual critic score of the movie. But this is where we see, unlike the Infinity Saga, if I grow this, I'm just going to grow these so we can compare them better. So this is our Infinity Saga graph. This is our Multiverse Saga graph. They're no longer on the same... Like, these are so closely in tandem through most of the Infinity Saga. Things start to get iffy around here when the Marvel formula was really sinking in with people. And here the critics actually tend to be higher than the audience, whereas for Multiverse, it's the complete opposite, where the audience is usually a considerable amount larger than the critics in every single instance of this. And if I can, what I do want to do is we can look at this another way too. So if we take customize chart style, and we can hopefully, if I figure out how to do it, change this to be what it is right now. Here we go, setup, and we can make this look like a line too. So here you'll see again, like where the critic goes, the audience mostly goes for the Infinity Saga. It's pretty similar up to, again, here when the Marvel formula thing was kicking in and people were saying like, okay, these are starting to feel samey. And then, of course, I mean, we have our Captain Marvel dip. But for the most part, except for this little bit, this like 3-movie stretch, this is so closely identical. Everyone was like on the same page. And then let me go back to what it was. It was this. Okay. And then let's take this one, and now we'll do the same thing with this one. Chart type, make this a line, and look, the lines don't even get close to crossing, except at No Way Home, because everyone likes No Way Home, where it's sitting at a comfortable 93 and 98 for No Way Home. But even then, it's a considerable chunk less. The audience is liking these movies much more than the critics are. And I think the question there stems from if this is a matter of fatigue or not, of if a lot of critics are finding that the Marvel thing is kind of not exciting anymore, and so they're rating them, I don't want to say more fairly, because obviously everything is subjective, we all look at stuff differently, but if they're starting to be more harsh of these movies instead of kind of riding the hype wave that we have with the Infinity Saga, which I think is definitely a possibility. In my opinion, I don't really think that. I just think a lot of the Phase 4 movies have just been weaker than a lot of the Phase 3 movies. Mainly for me, just because of the amount of stuff they're putting out. The same level of quality control is not happening. But that's kind of my thing on this. Now, what I do want to do, let's get rid of both of those. I want to bring these back over here for a minute. I want to make one with all of them on it now. So this one's going to be kind of busy, but we can go column right there. And then this is just we're going to have to do this with it. Oh, okay. So this is all of them next to each other. So we can see it starts, here's where Multiverse starts, and you can see these red lines go up as the blue lines kind of go down, especially if we look at this streak, right? We start at a high with No Way Home, Multiverse goes down, Thor goes down, Black Panther kind of brings it up, and then Quantumania brings it down again. And then chart style line, we can see this again, so, right? Riding that same wave, and then Phase 4 is completely above. But okay, so those are the graphs though. But there's some more I want to do here. So let's delete this. I brought this over for a reason. I want to average these out, which I think I know how to do. Okay. Average of those 84.608. So we can round up to like 84.61. And then if we average out these bad boys, 82.34. Critics, take note of this, critics during the Infinity Saga actually tended to rate the movies higher than the audience. We can see this from the very beginning. Iron Man 94, audience 93. Some of these are the same. You know, Thor's higher, Captain America's higher, Iron Man 3 is a bit higher. And it's a trend we see. Black Panther, great examples. Like, that's a fair amount higher. Ragnarok, fair amount higher. Same with Homecoming. Infinity War's kind of our big outlier of this. And I'm sure Captain Marvel screws with this number a tad. Not enough to do considerable damage, but changes it a couple little bits. But Infinity War is really the only big outlier where the critics liked it less than the audience. Now let's compare those with the Multiverse Saga. So critics of the Multiverse Saga were at a 73. And audience of the Multiverse Saga were at an 88. And this is, and just so I don't screw with formatting, that's a big difference. That is a huge difference. And actually, to make this fair, let's do this. Okay, 76 with, if we remove Quantumania, because there isn't an audience score yet, we're at 76. But that is still, I mean, that is 12 off. Look how tight everyone was with the Infinity Saga. Look how close that was. Like, that's just over a 2% difference. Whereas this is a 12% difference. So I think a lot of it does stem from critics almost feeling harsher. So here's the thing. Let's say that Black Widow came out during the Infinity Saga. A lot of people think it might have actually gotten higher scores. I think that's just kind of a conspiracy theory. I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think it's because, you know, we had a 23 movie run here with the Infinity Saga. And, you know, they were producing very good movies. I mean, you know, there's a couple hiccups, obviously. Dark World, not great. Some people think Thor's not great. I really like Thor. And then, of course, you know, as you get down here, Iron Man 2 is not great either. As you get down here, there's a hiccup every once in a while. Like, a lot of people aren't fond of Ant-Man and the Wasp. Same with Captain Marvel. That one's kind of iffy to people. But for the most part, I mean, these were all, like, kind of knocking it out of the park. And we get to a point around, really, Guardians, where we're riding the hype for years. For years, we're riding that hype. It's like Marvel can do no wrong. Every installment was exciting us more and more, and we were loving it. Come here, we're looking at something new riding off the back of the 1-2 punch that is Infinity War and Endgame. And now we're doing something different. We're exploring new characters and different themes, and sometimes in the case of things like Wakanda Forever, or Multiverse of Madness to an extent, but WandaVision did better than Multiverse of Madness. We're looking at dark themes, and we're telling what feels to be more character-focused stories instead of the big plot-driven stories of the Infinity Saga. Not that there's anything wrong with either of those. It's just a discrepancy I've noticed, a difference I've noticed between the two sagas. And we get something that feels different. Now, granted, I think the Multiverse Saga movies, have a lot of flaws. I think a lot of them have a lot more flaws than the Infinity Saga. I think a lot of that is because if we factor the shows in, there's so much happening. It's like there's a quality control difference. But I do wonder, I can't help but wonder if there's a sense of it feeling so different that it's affecting people's perception of the movies. For example, Eternals is one of my least favorite MCU movies. 47 is so much lower than it deserves. I think it's closer to a 77, in fact. I think part of the reason No Way Home does so well is because it almost feels like it maintains what it had through Spider-Man's appearances in the Infinity Saga, right? And I've noticed with the movies people really like No Way Home and Shang-Chi specifically, and Wakanda Forever, the thing people have pointed out is it feels like the Infinity Saga again, which to me confirms they're doing something different. The first one was they had all these incredible toys and they played with them and it was awesome. Now we have a new set of toys and we're looking at different stuff and it's different and we have to realize it's different. And I think that's part of where this critic and audience gap is coming in that wasn't there in the Infinity Saga, is that Marvel does not, I don't think, wants the same feel in most of these movies that they had in the Infinity Saga movies. I think they're trying to do something different. That's just my guess. Whether or not that's working for you, whether or not I'm completely wrong, obviously that's up to you, but that's just, if I had to make a hunch on why this is happening, of why we have a gap of 2.3 in the Infinity Saga, but 12 in the Multiverse Saga, I think it's because Marvel went into this knowing we're doing something, we're getting different. We're doing something different. We've lost our heavy hitters like Iron Man and Captain America. And now we're passing some of these stories on to the next generation who can lead this franchise forward, and we're telling completely different stories, and we're telling crazier and wackier stories. I mean, we have a movie named Multiverse of Madness, a movie named Love and Thunder, and a movie named Quantumania. Like, these are so completely different from anything we would have seen from these. I mean, the craziest title that we had in the Infinity Saga was Guardians of the Galaxy. Whereas here, they're getting weird. They're getting different. They're not trying to replicate what they did. They're trying to do something new and different that we have not seen before. I think it's, they knew they have a formula. And yes, they're incorporating some of that formula into these movies. Issue with Black Widow kind of follows the formula. That's my issue with Shang-Chi. And I know a lot of people have said Quantumania feels too formulaic for how crazy the story kind of is. So, yes, it's not perfect. It has its issues. But I think if we look at these and we look at the graphs, I think it's very much how people are adapting to the new wave of Marvel differently. And what I'm wondering is actually how this will change. We know that Kevin Feige said they're going to slow down and pace themselves through this saga a bit better because Phase 4 was like it just didn't stop. We never had a moment to breathe, and that was a big criticism everyone had. And Kevin Feige said they're going to try to slow down the production a bit and really give everything the time and care it needs. And so I wonder how much this is going to change, and I wonder if we're actually going to see this kind of come back to feeling more like the Infinity Saga and what everyone loved about that, or if they're going to kind of stick with their plan and do something different. I don't know. That's just my thing. But I really just wanted to look at these numbers because I think they're interesting at seeing the difference between audience and critics for both the Infinity Saga and the Multiverse Saga. I think there's a lot of cool stuff we can figure out from that, a lot of stuff to be implied. And, what do you guys think? Why is it that critics were so, not so much higher, but a fair amount higher during the Infinity Saga, but audiences are a lot higher? Let me put the 53 back because I feel like it, are a lot higher during the Multiverse Saga. So let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please leave a like on it if you did. Subscribe, click on the bell icon to receive all notifications from the MCU HQ. That's going to be it. Have a great day, guys.